All right. So today we turn to a gospel, the Gospel of John. In gotta get the logo in there. Finally remembered to use the coffee cup with the logo, so yeah, we gotta get it in there. The Gospel of John. I'm in chapter 4. The famous story, the woman at the well. Right. And you're wondering, what does this have to do with worship? I bring you to verse 24 and 25 of this great story, and I won't be able to read the whole thing with you right now, but I invite you to read this whole story. It's a wonderful story. Gospel of John's really good about that, of storytelling. Sometimes maybe a little out there, but good storytelling. Sometimes the best stories always are. I mean, I love Star Wars, but sometimes you're like, what? Anyway, moving on. So, verse 24 and 25. They're talking about salvation, living water. Living waters. We're talking about this woman is a Samaritan, right? She's not supposed to be part of the club, if you will. She's not. She's a heathen sinner, according to the teachings that had been applied from God. And Jesus is kind of rebuking that here. And in fact, Jesus says, here, we'll go to verse 24, if I get to it here. God is in spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth. One said to him, I know the Messiah is coming, who's called the Christ. When he comes, he will proclaim all things to us. Jesus said, I am he, the one who you're speaking to you. Right? And actually, backing up verse 23, sorry. The hour is coming and is now here when true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, for the Father seeks such as these to worship him. So, read that in order. Hello, Zach. Okay, too much caffeine. Anyway, but what is Jesus talking about? He's talking about worship with this woman who's not supposed to be, in the worshiping group. But God says, not so fast. All are welcome to worship. In fact, we worship in spirit and truth. God is spirit. I wonder, what does our worship look like when it is true? Spirit-led, hopefully, right? It's not our agendas. It's not our traditions and rites, R-I-T-E, that are salvific or make worship what it is. It's God's presence. That's what makes communion special. God promises to be there. That's why some may have qualms with doing worship. Communion online, I don't. This is God's domain. God's got this. And yeah, I see in this passage, God is a uniter. As Paul goes on later to write, Christ has broken down the dividing wall between Jew and Gentile. All people are invited to worship. Look, we're getting outreach in this week. Outreach and stewardship and truth, and we're getting everything in there this week, right? It's like they're all connected. It's like God's working through everything. Weird. Anyway, and this passage I'm struck by, right? If our worship is true, a true worshiper, it's a very important concept in John, by the way. What is true is not always easy. And plenty of times I preach a sermon and I'm like, well, this might not go over well, but it's the truth. And we have this relationship that God is uniting us together. We might not always, in election week, right? We might not always agree on everything. So how do we be united and true, right? We trust God to bring us together, and maybe we give each other some grace as we work to be truthful what God wants. I guess that's the other thing, is we talk about worship as the relationship between us and God, and then us and each other through God. Well, through God, all of us, like we talked about in Reformation 2 weeks ago, have been made free. All of us are here to worship. Maybe we all have a truth to offer. That's a healthy perspective to look. The God of the harvest brings a vibrant reaping of all these different lives and gifts and beliefs and talents, and the goodness of spirit and truth. Worship can harness that power together. God is capable of this. So you know what? There might be a sermon you're like, I don't know. Talk to me. Let's talk about it. God is a uniter. Let's find that truth.